Welcome everyone. Today we'll be talking about Fortinet Secure SD-Branch solution. So if you're not here for that, you might want to jump off now. If you are here for Secure SD-Branch, strap yourself in. Hope you got a coffee. We'll be going through sort of what SD-Branch is, what Fortinet's strategy is for SD-Branch, what their benefits and core differentiators are for SD-Branch, and we'll be doing a demonstration from a branch perspective, and then I'll get Brendon to jump in, and Brendon will actually show how to do centralized management for SD-Branch, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end, and we'll take it from there. Before we start, just wanted to say a massive thank you to the great work of our team here at Wavelink, our partners, and also to Fortinet themselves. We're proud to have been announced Fortinet's 2021 APAC Distributor of the Year. And that's all thanks to everyone's efforts. Also, before we jump in, I just want to introduce Wavelink in case any of you have not dealt with us before. We were established back in 1998 with a key focus on growing our strategic vendors and our partners' presence. And we're doing that by building capability and depth and aggregating solutions and providing specialized product knowledge and product intimacy. Wavelink was introduced to Fortinet as we were originally a Maru Networks distributor since 2008. Since then, Fortinet has acquired Maru, and that's begun the relationship between Wavelink and Fortinet. Since then, we've been working hard to grow and nurture our solutions and our partners into the market. We are a 100% Australian-owned company, and we have a really responsive and open culture, and we like to have a yes, we can do attitude. We have many other benefits, including a professional services program that includes staging, rolling out installation services, and an exclusive incentive program that we run on a regular basis. If you want any more information, just reach out to us or your account managers or to the sales team. Without further ado, let's jump right into the content for SD-Branch. So the edge of the WAN in the branch network is becoming more difficult to protect. So it starts with the rapid growth of traffic volumes, and this is a result of an influx of software as a service applications and cloud-based tools and voice over IP video services. We've all seen it, like Microsoft Teams is a great example of voice over IP and video services. Since COVID's happened, the use of Teams has just blown up massively. This also includes a propagation in wireless access points and the number of types of devices that are accessing them. And that's got to do around BYOD. And the evolution of the WAN edge exposes, this WAN edge exposes vulnerabilities that must be secured. Branch networks also must support many more endpoint devices, whether that's wired and wireless. These include the various personal mobile devices of employees, suppliers, visitors, as well as the growing number of diversity of IoT devices. Some may not have fully patched and or updated system software, especially for IoT devices, and a large number of devices may not have any built-in security capabilities at all. Again, that's particularly looking at IoT devices currently. And not all of these devices are even visible to network or security operations team currently. And the de facto approach to infrastructure at most companies has been addressing these new network functionalities and requirements and security gaps one at a time, and by adding new devices to the network to cope with that. So over time, this has created extremely complex environments. And specifically, the large number of isolated point security endpoints that have accumulated, and it's become difficult to manage in terms of both cost and time. And it's still leaving gaps in protection. Similarly, provisioning technologies for branches can also consume valuable time and resources because that provisioning does not cover all of the services that a branch currently has as part of their security portfolio. Here, network engineering and operation leaders need a solution that can ensure security, performance, reliability, availability, and security at the branch. An effective network security approach must deliver powerful, scalable performance while integrating multiple network and security features within the single offering. And it also requires a network security architecture that provides centralized policy controls and transparency across your whole attack surface. So what are the challenges? Well, sort of the traditional hub and spoke branch model that many distributed enterprises currently use is challenging for centralized IP staff to both deploy and support. Core business supporting technologies such as WAN, security, and wired and wireless networks are rarely integrated. Often multiple vendors and solutions are put in place, each with their own hardware and operating systems to manage. Meanwhile, performance requirements continue to rise due to these cloud-based business applications, SaaS, and the increase in the number of devices that are connecting. These factors are straining your traditional local area networks and also is having a major effect on WAN networks. So from a security perspective, most traditional distributed enterprise branches rely on a form of centralized security where traffic is backhauled through the data center for inspection. And the shift to cloud technologies drives the need to secure both that WAN and that LAN edge traffic in a distributed manner and a way to avoid quality of experience issues when this traffic is routed first to the corporate data center. And the introduction of business enabling technologies in the form of IoT devices has significantly increased this requirement. And now there is a need for visibility to catalog and secure these devices at the branch itself. In terms of complexity, the management of LAN and WAN technologies that rely on multiple consoles and operating systems requires significant cross-training expertise to support. Without that full visibility in a single location, IT staff cannot understand where issues are correlating from. The result is that the issues take too long to resolve and it's impacting productivity. Long deployment and provisioning times are also common for IT staff members while they're struggling to incorporate LAN, Edge, and WAN technologies throughout their rollouts or branches. And complexity also extends into the product licensing. Often each solution, whether it's a single or a multi-vendor approach, has licensing that needs to be maintained and monitored and purchased when you're bringing out new branches. And then also on that point, that there is a cost to that, right? So implementing licensing on every aspect of the solution is creating additional finance considerations for IT administrators and VPs as they try to support critical use cases and expanding out their branches. And often multiple aspects of securing the LAN and WAN requires licensing that is expensive and it's complex. So the solution is this idea of SD-Branch. And the idea of it is to build a secure, agile, and resilient branch architecture that takes advantages of the latest technologies while reducing cost. An SD-Branch solution looks to answer these questions by combining network security with LAN and WAN functionality. This includes software-defined WAN, also known as SD-WAN, routing, integrated security, and centrally managed LAN and Wi-Fi functionalities all into a single hardware platform. The solution provides performance and management of the remote branches, again, while reducing this cost and complexity. And it follows 6 key factors, and that's technology integration, management and deployment agility, SD-WAN and SD-WAN performance, security as an overhaul, IoT visibility and management, and again, reducing that total cost of ownership or TCO. So any approach to creating an efficient, secure, distributed enterprise branch is hampered if the key technologies are not integrated. An integrated solution will simplify and reduce workloads on resource-challenged IT teams. And SD-Branch solutions can reduce the complexity through the consideration and convergence of key features. So the resulting platform will simplify the branch architecture and it makes it easier to support and manage. In addition, with better integration of security along in the LAN and WAN platforms, IoT security can be better addressed. We'll talk a little bit on that a little bit later. Centralized deployments and management is fundamental in today's distributed enterprise environments. An effective SD-Branch solution provides tools to centrally deploy and manage key LAN and WAN edge functions, so no specialized IT expertise is required at the branch level. Organizations can increase their agility through fast provisioning, streamlined configuration, and also centralized monitoring and support zero-touch deployments. And zero-touch deployments is important because that saves you time and money, and it reduces the cost of expanding out your network. Management operations support costs are also a large component, as we spoke about for TCO. A solution that has security and network control functionality integrated into a single pane of glass reduces this complexity and it simplifies management, which helps reduce the cost of your TCO. Security staff can spend less time managing the various aspects of the network and security operations, and they can start to correlate events. An SD-Branch solution should give the service provider and customer, anyone who's interacting with the network, end-to-end, actionable, visibility across all locations of the business, and provide advanced prevention and detection capabilities. Unsecured endpoints such as IoT devices present particular risk at these branch locations, which may not have a regular on-site IT presence at these branch. As IoT devices continue to proliferate and attract cyber criminals due to their often lax security and onboard operating systems, device-level visibility and control and automation of onboarding of IoT devices is required, and NAC addresses this. NAC deployments can be expensive and time-consuming typically. Therefore, a key consideration of SD-Branch solution needs to be how does NAC technology enable the LAN edge and how affordable and easy is it to employ. NAC should be able to centrally manage, and it should be licensed in a way that's cost-effective for each branch location. Sorry. So, Fortinet's key differentiators. So, Fortinet's SD-Branch solution seamlessly expands to the new edges of the network, and it delivers an unparalleled level of performance and reliability, while at the same time providing centralized control and visibility across the entire branch attack surface. So Fortinet's SD-Branch security-driven network offers the accelerated convergence of networking and security, and it provides a consolidated solution for SD-WAN, security, and LANs, whether that's wired and wireless, and it provides that into a single proven security platform. This provides simplified management, reduces your overall complexity, and introduces industry-leading security capabilities. And Fortinet does this in a way that there is no complex licensing required for this. And Fortinet SD-Branch offers several key differentiators over its competitors. First, it enables the security-driven networking by utilizing the FortiGate next-gen firewall and broader Fortinet security fabric architecture to extend that security throughout the network access layer. So this includes Fortinet solutions such as FortiAP, which is their secure wireless access points, as well as FortiSwitch and FortiLink, which is their secure Ethernet solution. The FortiNAC Network Access Control NAC adds visibility, detection, and control of these IoT devices, as well as any other device that's connecting to your network, and it provides added ability to track anomaly detection and also track anomaly traffic throughout your network. Fortinet SD-Branch also includes single pane of glass management security, network access, and of course, Fortinet's SD-WAN solution. You can add in FortiManager to the solution, and it enables extension management at a scale with zero-touch deployment. So essentially, this is combining your interface of security and networking, and it helps ease the burden of limited IT staff while minimizing TCO if you've got a multi-branch site. Fortinet's SD-Branch extends, again, that security fabric and the benefits of SD-WAN to network access, converging WAN and LAN into a single integrated secure platform. So I might quickly skip through this, and I want to really touch on the value to Fortinet resellers, because there's a lot of value here to the customer. But from a reseller perspective, what's the value in SD-Branch? Well, it turns out there's actually a great value for resellers. and it's designed and developed in a way around this SD-Branch solution that SD-WAN is a hot name in the market, and in the industry, it's quite fresh. And a study which was published in Network World indicated that 41% of enterprises wanted their WAN management environment to cover branch LAN infrastructure. And it's estimated that by 2025, 3/4 of large organizations will be actively pursuing a vendor consolidation strategy. So the market is there. The market is still growing quite rapidly. And secure SD-WAN, which is a component of SD-Branch, is a feature on the FortiGate, and it's included as part of FortiOS. There's no additional licensing for that. So that is a value to you as a reseller to go, okay, Craig, a key component of SD-Branch is already free. Secure SD-Branch increases customer value by offering the benefits of consolidation throughout the convergence of services. And secure SD-Branch includes hardware and services beyond the FortiGate. So this captures more customers and it increases the value of your offering to the customer. Now you can extend the secure branch using a couple of things. So we've got FortiNAC, which is protecting the device edge. We'll touch a little bit more on that during the demo. FortiClient and FortiEDR also provides protection to manage device edge. We've got FortiRecorder, which is enhancing your physical security, and then FortiVoice, which is enabling communication. So the core components of the SD-Branch solution includes the FortiGate next-gen firewall, and this has many features such as the onboarding NAC feature, which we'll discuss during the demo. We've got FortiExtender wireless LAN extender, FortiSwitch secure access Ethernet switching, and we've also got the FortiAP, which is your secure wireless access point. And the foundation of the SD-Branch is Fortinet's industry-leading FortiGate next-generation firewall, which is running, of course, FortiOS operating system. So the FortiGate supports applications from individual teleworkers, and this is from small branches all the way to the most demanding data centers. And it's driven by our purpose-built network processors. And these latest generation firewalls that we've got, which are the F series, deliver hardware-accelerated high-performance routing that is unique in the market currently. FortiGate's integrated secure SD-WAN capabilities include application awareness, encrypted multipath intelligence, application steering, simplified monitoring, network segmentation, and that WAN resiliency that you require for SD-Branch. And FortiExtender provides WAN resiliency and flexibility, and it's fully integrated into the SD-Branch for single pane glass management. The convergence of both wired and wireless networking within the next generation firewall extends the capabilities of a secure SD-WAN solution to the branch access layer. So this is combining your next gen firewall security, switches, extenders, and APs into one interoperable solution. And this integration again reduces your infrastructure complexity by simplifying your branch management for security, network access, and also SD-WAN. And it eliminates the multiple vendor interfaces and operating systems, which can be a burden on limited staffing resources, while erasing defensive gaps along the seams between your different solutions. So FortiLink, which is the core technology that the FortiSwitch uses in order to utilize the SD-Branch solution, and it allows the FortiGate to act as the network controller to manage FortiAP access points as well as FortiSwitch devices. And FortiLink provides critical benefits to organizations with distributed branch infrastructures, such as that integrated security with network access functionality, greater simplicity, single pane of glass to manage security, WAN, and access controls. FortiOS can even also connect wireless SSIDs directly as a firewall interface on the FortiGate. And this is offering unparalleled security for wireless infrastructure if it's required. FortiSwitch itself is available in a variety of port densities and PoE power levels. We've got our entry level, mid-range, premium, and aggregation series of access switches. We've got our data center series, which is 1000 to 3000 series, and also the rugged FortiSwitch range. Here I've sort of highlighted from the data sheet the main points, and you can see, again, the wide array of switches that we've got. We've got all the way from entry-level layer 2 8-port switches, all the way up to 48-port aggregate switches which have 40 gig QSFE uplink ports. And that's only on an access layer. Then we've got our data center series, which are 10 gig, 40 gig multi-port switches. And then Fortinet also have a wide range of access point devices. Currently, we've got our FortiAP series and our FortiAP UTP access point series. The key differentiator there is the UTP access points allows you to do security at the access point layer. So you can have IPS and web filtering actively monitored and done at an access point layer instead of having that traffic go all the way back up to your FortiGate and then your FortiGate do the web filtering on the IPS. There are different standards for Wi-Fi, as we know, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 4, and coming out pretty soon, Wi-Fi 6E. And each series of AP has a maximum Wi-Fi standard it's capable of doing. So for example, the FortiAP F series is a Wi-Fi 6 capable device, but keep in mind that it's always capable of using a lower standard so long as it's configured to do so. And now there are two main ways to centrally manage SD-Branch locations, and these are to utilize the security fabric or to utilize FortiManager or do a combination of both. So security fabric provides centralized visibility and object synchronization, and it's built right into FortiOS, and it's a zero cost thing. Security fabric settings and objects are pushed from the root device to the security fabric. Dashboard integration and security fabric visibility is also managed from the root device. And SAML authentication can be added for single sign-on ability and unity for administrator accounts across the FortiGate landscape. So that means if you've got 10 branches, you can have a unified login for each of those devices using SAML authentication. And then FortiManager, this provides a single pane of glass management and orchestration for the whole of the fabric. It allows you to do template deployments of things such as secure SD-WAN. It also allows you to do many other things. Single policy package deployments to all branch locations. So what that means is you can have a single policy for IPS, and then from Manager, you can push that out to each and every single one of your branches. That means you don't have to then sign into each branch and recreate that policy at each one. And then you've also got automation and scripting, and that can be done across the whole of your security fabric. So let's jump into a demo of Fortinet SD-Branch solution, because I think it's quite important that we go in and we can actually see and interact with what is the SD-Branch solution. So for our demo, we have 2 branch offices with identical solutions, and this consists of a FortiGate with 2 WAN links in SD-WAN, a FortiSwitch, and a FortiAP, because these are the core components. I'll only be focusing on branch 1, but as branch 1 utilizes a simplified network solution, and it also utilizes NAC policies on the FortiSwitch, its configuration was used as the base configuration of branch 2, and this significantly sped up the deployment of that branch, because essentially I took branch 1 as a starting point, took the configuration, made changes to the interfaces, made changes to the serial numbers for the access point and the switch, and uploaded it to branch 2, and then I was off and ready to go. So let me just switch across my screen. So logging into the FortiGate. I'm going to get this message saying that the FortiGate is currently managed by a FortiManager device. You shouldn't see this when you initially log in. Brendon will speak a little bit later on FortiManager because we're using that as a centralized management solution, and he's going to demo that for you. For now, I'm going to click login as read write and click yes to log in as if we were logging in directly to this FortiGate device with full read and write access permissions. So let's start at the interface level. So this is the graphical user interface of the FortiGate, and this is where you can do your centralized management of your firewall, your switches, your APs, and all the devices that are connected to them. So starting with the network interface page that we've got visible here, Brendon, do you mind just clarifying that that is in fact showing for the screen for everyone?
Sure is. I can see branch 1.
Thank you, Brendon. So here we've got a FortiLink interface. So if I open up this FortiLink interface, we can see that it contains a couple of VLANs, some which are centered around the NAC functionality, which contains a onboarding network, a video network, a voice network. We also have a quarantine network on top of our usual data, voice, and Wi-Fi management VLAN that I've created manually. If we scroll down as well, we can see we've got those two WAN interfaces. These are on different IP subnets just to sort of simulate that they're on different ISPs. And then these two WAN interfaces are within an SD-WAN zone called Virtual WAN Link. Jumping into SD-WAN, again, just as we saw before, we've got those two WAN interfaces in our Virtual WAN Link interface. And if we jump into, sorry, let's just, yeah, I might present like this. Jumping into SD-WAN rules, we can see that we've currently got 4 rules set up. One of this, which is our all-out WAN, is a rule where we're basically assigning all outbound traffic that doesn't match any of the rules above it are manually assigned our WAN 1 interface as the primary interface and WAN 2 is the secondary interface. We've also got an SD-WAN rule for traffic bound for Microsoft Office 365 as the destination. That will go out either WAN 1 or WAN 2 based on a SLA, performance SLA that we've defined. And then above that, we've got 2 more policies. Don't worry about these. Brendon might speak about them a little bit later. For now, all that you need to know is that these rules allow traffic to flow across the branches. Jumping into our performance SLAs, you can see the SLA statistics for our Office 365 SLA on each of the WAN interfaces. And at the very top there, we can see its past performance. So we've got packet loss. So we can see all the way along, there's some sections where I've got 0. I think all sections have 0, so that's great. We can see our latency. So we can see just here, WAN 2 had 6.67 milliseconds, but then it sort of settled back down to 2.58. And then also we can have a look at the jitter. So just back here, for some reason, we had 8.33 milliseconds of jitter. And then obviously since then, it's sort of settled back down to 0.09, 0.01. So that's our SD-WAN solution. Again, it's quite simplified, but it's just there to show you this is a key part of SD-Branch. And Fortinet's SD-WAN solution, as we probably all know, is very versatile. It's very powerful. But in saying that, it can be as easy and as simple as you need it to be, or as complex as you need it to be. So let's circle back to our dashboards. So the dashboard contains several widgets that are pre-built into the FortiGate graphical user interface, but you can also create your own custom dashboards to suit your specific needs. Before we do that, I just want to have a look at the Users and Devices tab, or dashboard I should call it. And here we can see all the devices and the users that are connected to the branch at any given time. So if we click into our device inventory section, let that load. This provides us a detailed look into exactly what hardware and operating systems are on our network, and also what users are identified at each device and what part of the network it is connected to. And you can get further host information and all sorts of stuff here. So from an overview right now on this network that we've got, we can see that I've got a couple of hardware vendors connected. I've got Sangoma, I've got an unidentified device, I've got a Dell, I've got Fortinet, and I've got an Apple device. And if I come down here, if I hover over my MacBook Pro, it'll actually provide me a whole bunch of host information, such as the IP address, the device host name, its MAC address, where it's actually connected to. So right now, this is telling me the serial number of the switch and it's port number 5, and that's then allowing it to the VL data network. And I can see very specific stuff such as the operating system version that's actually running on my Mac, which is correct. It is 12.1. So that's quite cool. Right-clicking on the device, we can also go down and create a NAC policy if we wanted to specifically create a NAC policy for this device. We could go in and have a look at matching logs, and we could also look at traffic through FortiView. Now, touching back on the custom dashboards, if we click the little plus arrow on the far left, it'll bring up our Add Dashboard section. I will just quickly call this one Demo. That'll do. And in here, you can add as many widgets as you require in order to get useful information out of the FortiGate. So for example, you needed a dashboard that showed a lot of information specifically around interfaces. You can search for things. So you can see here I've typed in interface and it'll only show me widgets that are applicable for interface. So let's say I want interface bandwidth, and I can add that. I can come in here and say, which interface would you like? I might be interested in looking at how much traffic is traversing on my voice VLAN, and you click add, and then there you go. The widget's added, and you can add as many as you need. You can move them around. For a lot of these widgets, clicking in on them will provide a more detailed information. If they're basic like this, you can scroll across, it'll highlight to you what the value was at that specific time, and you can go ahead and you can change the range of data that we're looking at. Right now, there's absolutely nothing running on our voice network because I haven't fully set up the Sangoma on my phone. I have added it so I can show you guys later some of the NAC functionality built into FortiGate. So moving down, we will go to Wi-Fi and switch controller, and we will have a look at the switch controller functionality built into the FortiGate. So here we can control what interface on the FortiGate we're assigning to the FortiLink interface. For this demo, I've only got interface 1 as a member for FortiLink, but you can have multiple interfaces as your FortiLink interface, and you can aggregate those links. So for example, if you had a FortiGate and a FortiSwitch and you needed 2 gigabits link between them, you could aggregate 2 1 gig links. And that aggregation also, of course, because it's link aggregation, provides you resiliency for the links. So if you had those 2 links between the FortiSwitch and the FortiGate, if someone accidentally connected one of those links, then that's fine. You still have that connection on the secondary link in link aggregation from that switch back to the FortiGate. And down here, we can see that I've currently got 1 switch connected. I've also got the ability to automatically authorize devices. So this means as soon as I connect in another FortiSwitch into my FortiSwitch down here, or into, let's say if I added internal 2 in here, and then I connected that switch into internal 2, it would automatically be detected by FortiGate as a FortiSwitch. It'll be authorized, the switch will restart and come back in as a managed switch by the FortiGate. I've also got the ability to do FortiLink split interface. Essentially what this does is it allows you to aggregate 1 interface on the FortiGate to more than 1 FortiSwitch. If you need further details on that, just reach out to us. We can provide you a couple of examples around where you would want to use that and how that deployment would look like. You've also got the ability to turn on IoT scanning, which essentially allows FortiSwitch to query the FortiGuard IoT service for additional device information. Moving into our managed FortiSwitch, let me just change the view. So here we can see that currently I've got 1 switch managed by this FortiGate. It's a FortiSwitch 108E FPoE. And if we hover over the title, similar to what we saw earlier on the endpoint on the host device, it'll provide us a little bit more information. So we can see that currently it's online. Currently it's connected directly to the FortiLink interface on the FortiGate, and it's running firmware version 7.2.1, which is the latest release as of yesterday. If we right click, we get further contextual options, such as deauthorizing the device. We can upgrade it, we can restart it, we can completely factory reset it for whatever reason. And we've also got diagnostics tools down here, such as connecting directly to the CLI, blinking the LEDs in case you're in a large rack with multiple switches and they haven't been labeled correctly. And then you've also got this diagnostics and tools section. So here, when it loads, you can gather a lot more useful information for the switch, such as its IP address, CPU and memory usage, PoE power budget remaining, if it has PoE. And if I open up faceplate, you can also hover over each of these interfaces to see what's currently set up on them, how is it currently running. So for example, on the first port, which is connected to my switch at the moment, we can see that PoE is enabled. It says it's delivering power and it's currently using 3.5 watts. Now down here, typically, if this wants to load properly, I might just reload it. Not sure why that's not coming up today. It was coming up a little bit earlier today, but normally what this would do here is it would show you all of your ports on the switch, how they're configured, and you can actually go in and change the configuration of the switch. I will show you how to do that on the FortiSwitch port section on the left-hand side, but normally this is like a simple way of quickly jumping in and changing it if required. You've got the cable test functionality. You've got access to the logs of the FortiSwitch. Again, you can access the CLI directly through the FortiGate. And then here you've also got a list of all the clients. So here it's providing us the host name, the port they're connected to, what VLAN they're currently being provided and why they're being provided it. And again, host information such as, is it Windows, is it Linux, and what's the hardware vendor. There's further information that can be found. If you click this little cogwheel up here in the top left-hand side, you can go down and make it show you when it was last seen, which FortiSwitch it was connected to, what firewall addresses, and further information. And then on the identity tab here, if the FortiGate had identified that there's a user for each of those devices, it would actually list the user here, which device they're connected to, and any properties that that user would have. So if, for example, my MacBook was identified as John Doe, John Doe would actually pop up here and it would show you've got John Doe connected to whatever port that Mac is connected to, which I think it's port 5. We go back here. Port 5, there you go. And it would show that. So it would show John, device, MacBook, connected at port 5, and you could drill down from there and find out where your users are. So let's go across to FortiSwitch ports, and in here is where you would do your configuration for each of the port interfaces. And you would also do troubleshooting your interface specific issues right here. So here you can see what VLANs are assigned to each interface, PoE statistics, what devices are connected to each interface specifically, what mode that interface is configured in, and if there are any port policies applied to that specific interface. You can get additional columns, similar to what we saw before. If you click this little cogwheel, there's plenty more you can get. So you can have descriptions. So for example, if you knew something was always connected to port 1 on the switch, you could put a description in saying, I don't know, to Dell server, or something that would make sense for you to reference back to later. You can also go through and change your loop guard settings, cause settings, security policy, anything that you need generally, it's in there. And if it's not visible, just click that little cogwheel and you can bring up visibility. Right-clicking on any of these interfaces brings up a context menu where you can do, again, further configuration. You can change what mode the interface is in. So right now I've got majority of these interfaces set to NAC because I'll be demonstrating to you guys the NAC functionality. But if you wanted to turn that switch interface away from NAC and back into your traditional switch interface, you would just assign it a static, and then you could go ahead and change what your native VLAN is and what your allowed VLANs are, just as you would with any other switch interface. And then one last thing to see in here is, again, that faceplate view. This can be quite handy if you're on site and troubleshooting something. Again, you can hover over these and see what's currently set up on each. So we can see here in the access point, 3.6 watts currently, and it also provides us the total PoE budget view. So we can see, cool, from the switch perspective, what's our PoE statistics like. So next thing I want to show off, and this is a core functionality for Fortinet's SD-Branch solution, is NAC. And this is provided by FortiOS and FortiLink. And here you can define what or who are allowed to get onto your network and what networks they are assigned to. So for example, I've got this NAC policy here called NAC-FortiAP. And what this is doing is it's searching for a device that's connected under hardware vendor Fortinet and device family is FortiAP. If it detects a device that matches those, it will assign them to my Wi-Fi management VLAN. Now, essentially what this means is that if I was deploying, let's say 50 access points to this site, I wouldn't have to go around and identify which specific ports on this FortiSwitch these access points are connecting to in order to reconfigure those interfaces to provide Wi-Fi management VLAN to the access points. NAC will detect the devices and automatically assign the correct VLAN based on these rules. Similarly, I have a NAC-voice policy where I'm looking for any hardware that matches the vendor of Sangoma. And if it does, it will be assigned on the voice VLAN. And then finally, just to demonstrate a device connecting into the data network, I have created a policy that's quite specific around it has to be a vendor of Apple, the device family has to be MacBook, and the operating system identified itself has to be Mac OS. So if this MacBook was actually running Linux, it wouldn't match. If it was actually a MacBook Air that was running Mac OS, it wouldn't match. It has to specifically be a MacBook running Mac OS. And then up in the top right-hand side, if I view our matched devices, we can see in here, okay, well, we've got the rules, what's actually matching and where are they going? So in here, by default, you've got a view of by policy type. I'm not the biggest fan of this, but it's there because there are different ways that NAC can work. You've got FortiSwitch NAC, you've also got wireless NAC. The way I like to view it is by the NAC policy itself. So here it'll list out per policy that we saw on the other screen, what is actually matched to each NAC policy. So we can see I've got my access point, again, applied to that NAC-FortiAP policy, and it was assigned the Wi-Fi VLAN. There's further information that can be viewed here. Again, if you just click the little cogwheel, you can go through and unselect some of these. I've got them more visible just so we can see what's all on the screen. And then similar to the original page, if you hover over these, you can get further information on the device. We can see, I got the MacBook, MacBook, Mac OS, and then, I can go through and I can quarantine and ban if absolutely required. But because NAC's already identified and I've got that rule, it's just gone, cool, you're a MacBook Pro, MacBook, I'm going to put you on the data network. So that's FortiNAC. It can be quite complex, as you see if we go to create new. You can do it on a MAC address, a hardware vendor, a device family, a device type. So you could do switch, access point, specific operating system, or you can even do it on a user basis. So if we go across to the user section, we could assign a user group. So what it would do is it would identify the user at that device, check them against the user group. So if we had a staff group, and then we could say assign that staff group to our data network. So only those devices that are identified as having a staff user assigned to them would actually be assigned to the data VLAN. So if someone just connected in their, let's say their Dell PC, but wasn't actually a user of your network, they would just be sitting in limbo. They wouldn't be able to access your data VLAN because NAC wouldn't identify them as a user. They would just sit there and do nothing. Finally, we've got our FortiAP section. So similar to the switch, you can control your access points from the FortiGate. There's a new function that I really wanted to show off, and that's the FortiAP auto firmware provisioning. Essentially what that means is when you initially adopt the access points, the FortiGate will automatically update those access points to the latest configuration. So that by the time they're up and ready to go, all you're doing is assigning the profile to them, and then you hit the ground running. And then FortiAP profile, here is where you configure all of your configuration for the access point, such as what channels it would be using, what you want to use the radios for, whether that's an access point or whether you want to leave it as a monitor to monitor what's going around in the landscape. Fortinet is putting a lot of work into developing and adding functions to this page, but there is also a lot of extra stuff that you can do only through the CLI currently, such as you can override the LED state to turn the LEDs off if this is used in, let's say, hospitality. And then going back to the managed FortiAP page, again, similar to the switch page, if you hover over, you can get information about the switch. So here we can see what power it's currently running at, the version it's running at, what channel the access point radio is currently at. And if we right click, again, same with the switch, we can deauthorize, upgrade it, we can blink the LEDs, and we can do the diagnosis. And in here, you've got this a sort of similar level of statistics. You can go through, you can look at your clients, you can look at the logs, you've got access to the CLI. Currently haven't set it up just here, so we can't look at it, but you can go through and there's a lot of troubleshooting that you can do from the access point from the FortiGate because it's a fully integrated solution. Now, there's two last things that I really wanted to show you from a branch perspective, and that is the physical topology. And in here, this is a really powerful way of displaying all the elements of your network and how they're interconnected together. If I go device count, just so I can show my Mac, so we can see here at this branch exactly what's on the network, where it's connected into the network, and we can visually see it. So right here, if I open this up, I've got my MacBook, which is connected into the switch, and that switch is connected back to the FortiGate. And similar to what we saw before, if you hover over any of these hosts, you get that further information about them. If you see a device that you're not sure exactly what it is, you could go and you could quarantine it, do some investigation work about what is this device, how did it connect to the network, and then if you identify it as safe, you can unquarantine it, or you can permanently ban it from the network. Go ahead and you can do that right from this view within here. And then you might be able to see in the top right-hand side of each of the Fortinet devices, there's this little red section with a number in it, and that's essentially saying that the FortiGate has indicated that there are 4 security recommendations that I should do on each of those, or on that switch specifically. If I went ahead and I clicked into that, it would actually say, you should set up this kind of topology or this setting. Maybe it might be link aggregation back to the FortiGate, and it would go through and tell you what are the security and networking best practices for all of your Fortinet equipment across your network. The final thing I wanted to show you is automation. For automation, I'm just going to have to jump into a separate FortiGate just real quick, so bear with me a second. Log in read only, that's fine. So if we go to automation, automation again is a key part of Fortinet's SD-Branch solution. Automation, you can define a trigger for a range of automated tasks. So by default, there's a lot in here, but the one I really want to focus on is just this compromised host high. So essentially what it's doing is, if the FortiGate is identifying that a device in your network is compromised and that the threat level is high, you can automate a stitch. So essentially we've set the trigger. So the trigger is it's detected something that's a higher priority, and then we can go ahead and we can create an action from that. So one of the default ones is to quarantine that device on the switch and the access point. So essentially it'll take that device out of whatever VLAN it's in and smack it straight onto a quarantine VLAN. And then in your stitch is where you bring it all together. So right now this stitch is set to, again, that trigger of compromised host. It'll create an action, which is to quarantine it. And then it's also set by default, if there's FortiClient EMS on that endpoint device, to set FortiClient to go into quarantine mode as well. Now, you can also customize this to do many more things. You could make it send out an automated email, a notification, maybe a Teams notification out to your administrators to say, hey, this device has come out as compromised. We've automatically quarantined it onto the quarantine VLAN. Can you please, look into it in action from your side? So it's really quite powerful what you can do with automation. I really encourage all of the technical team to jump in, have a look at automation, get familiar with it, because this can be really, really powerful, and it reduces your overhead and burden of network management, because you can do all those sort of things instantly. So instead of having to react to, oh no, there's something that's on the network that's coming up as a risk, your FortiGate's already quarantined it, and it's gone and alerted you and said, hey, I've quarantined this device for you automatically. Can you please go and check on this device, ensure that it's now safe, or whatever you need to do on the endpoint, and then come back and you can remove that from the quarantine list. So that's the overall solution from a branch perspective. I'm going to hand it across now to Brendon, and Brendon's going to talk about, demonstrate to you how you would do centralized management of multiple branches. Brendon.
Helps if I unmute. Thank you, Kieran.
I'm just going to pass the presentation over to you.
That would be great. Make sure I'm selecting the right screen. Awesome. So as Kieran described before, we have 2 branch networks set up, and we also have our hub network set up. Now, I am aware that time is short, so I will keep this very brief. What I'm going to do here is log into our hub, or our head office FortiGate, just using my administrator account. I will log in as read-write. This is managed by FortiManager, so you'll see that in a minute. But if we have a look at the physical topology view under the security fabric, just give it a second to load. This is creating a live image of your network. I need to move the monitor. Oh, I can't move it over. That's right. Sorry, guys. I'm looking at my other monitor, so my camera's moving. You'll see that I've got the branch HQ, and then you'll see that all these other FortiGates and the switches and APs are all visible from your head office FortiGate. It also shows you the security rating recommendations that needs to happen to improve your security posture, and it can also show your devices as well. So we can see the MacBook Air, for instance, that's connected to the switch. These are all interactive, so you can hover over them to get more statistics, configure. You can start blinking LEDs, for instance, on the switch. But what's really awesome is you can use SAML authentication to then just instantly swap to the other branch without having to re-authenticate to your fabric. And it just automatically passes it over. So you'll now see I'm on branch 1, and it's still showing the whole fabric. There's in the fabric setup, you've got your connectors. So we've got our FortiAnalyzer, which is a requirement for your security fabric. We've also got our FortiManager, but we can also add EMS sandbox. You can add your cloud analyzer as well if you really want to. That's like the fabric in a nutshell is this part. And Kieran touched on the automation. So the automation, which I'm not on the head office, allows you to manage your downstream FortiGates as well. It's not just for the head office. So these automations are very, very powerful. Quickly on the manager front, you can see here I've got my security fabric set up as SD-Branch, and you'll see I've got branch 1, branch 2, and HQ. Now, what the FortiManager does in the latest version, so this is 7.2, it's running the latest. We've now got new templates, mainly for SD-WAN overlay templates. What this allows us to do is just select what sort of deployment we want, whether we want a single hub or dual hub. We can put in a description. I also turned on Auto Discover VPN, so it makes it a really simple deployment. You go next, select our hub, select our branch. So we need a group for this. You can group all your FortiGates into one group to allow for simplified deployment. And then you select your WAN ports on both your branch and your hub. You hit next. I didn't turn on any of these. You can get it to turn on your zone, like create your zones and interfaces for you. I didn't in this scenario. And that's it. That's the script done. Once the script is done, you push it out, and then it will create your VPN tunnels. It will create your SD-WAN policies. your BGP settings, everything that you need for your network to operate. The only thing you'll need to do is customize your SD-WAN policies so that, for example, I've created these ones here, which is 2-hub VPN1 and 2-hub VPN2, to just so that I can see that those tunnels are actually working from my branch to my head office. And you can see the tunnels are up on these monitors as well. I hate the map view. You can see that it's created all the tunnels between my branch office and my HQ. And what else is cool is the device inventory. So this shows you every device that's on your fabric across all your sites. So it's one view for the whole lot. And where Kieran was showing you just on that branch, this takes it to the next level. And you can see, which switch they're connected to, which AP they're connected to. Well, that is the AP. You can see the MacBook that's connected to branch 1. We can see the the FortiGate 60F, which is a downstream FortiGate connected to the head office. So all your information is now at your fingertips. This is now the single pane of glass. Just back on the templates really quick, it does actually create individual templates. So it's got BGP templates, so branch and hub. It's got the SD-WAN template for your branch, and I've also got a system template. So these are all included when you create that SD-WAN template overview. That's it in a nutshell. FortiManager makes it really simple to deploy SD-WAN in 7.2. Thank you, Kieran.
Thanks, Brendon. I'm just going to quickly switch back over to myself. So if you guys need any further details, obviously reach out to myself and reach out to Brendon or reach out to our sales team. We're happy to provide you with further details, more technical details around specific things around SD-Branch. You want to learn more about NAC, reach out to us. We've got some material around NAC. If you want more material around what Brendon was speaking about central management, reach out to us. We've got some material for that. Fortinet also has a large amount of material in their partner portal. So if you go into the partner portal, it's under Asset Library and just search for SD-WAN. They've got all sorts of material from solution briefs to some marketing campaigns. There's plenty of material in there. I think last time I checked, there was almost 30 pieces of material that's in there. So with that, I'm going to quickly go across to a Q&A time if anyone has any questions. Brendon, have you seen any particularly good questions come through that we can read out?
Only one. Yep. So the question was, is there any licensing requirements for FortiSwitch NAC?
Absolutely not. So all of the functionality that you saw today is all included as base FortiOS. There's no additional licensing required. So the FortiNAC functionality that's built into the FortiGate, which is leveraged through FortiLink, it allows you to do that device identification. If you want to do a lot more complex device identification, then FortiNAC, the full FortiNAC product, is a lot more complex than the built-in solution. But in terms of what you would typically need for a branch and what we've demonstrated today, that inbuilt functionality is perfect for that.
That's it.
We saw one just come through asking if 7.2 is stable for production. Brendon, would you like to comment on that?
I never recommend a zero release for production. So zero release is a feature release, and it's commonly buggy. In saying that though, I am running 7.2 at home and I haven't had any issues, but that is not a recommendation. FortiManager 7.2, if there's a feature that you particularly need, you could argue for or against it, but on your gates, I would stick with 706 as the latest.
Yeah, and to add to that, the reason why we did the demonstration on 7.2 is just to really show off the full functionality of NAC. Majority of it is there in 7.0 and above. It's just the user interface on a couple of very small things is slightly changed in 7.2 and it looks a little bit fancier. So we thought we'd demonstrate on 7.2 because by the time that you guys are producing these solutions to your customers, 7.2 will be a lot more mature at that point. Final question that we had come through, it's not specifically around SD-Branch, but it is still a good question that I get asked a fair bit anyhow. Brendon, you might be able to answer. Do Wavelink provide any engineering services to set up FortiGate equipment for the resellers?
So at this stage, Wavelink is not a services delivery company. However, if partners require training or enablement or any form of knowledge transfer, we may use a live environment to assist in that process. So if you do have some challenges, definitely reach out. We'll work with you to upskill your team.
Perfect. Thanks, Brendon. All right, with that, we might leave that Q&A session as is. If anyone has any questions, like I said, reach out to myself or Brendon. If there's anything that we've missed, don't worry, we keep a log of all the questions that come through. We'll go back and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you guys for attending. And like I said, if you like any more information, please just reach out. Otherwise, on behalf of myself and Brendon, thank you all for coming. Apologies that we ran a little bit over. There is a lot to talk about with SD-Branch, so we tried to pack it in, but I myself went a little bit over time, so apologies around that. And I'll hand it back to Rio to end the session for you guys. Thank you for coming.